Green Man. Thanks for tuning in. Story. My beef with alcohol, you know what I'm saying? Here we go. Greatest victory of my life. Here I come today. Lyrics come stuck in a phase. Remembering them very cold days where a little cold 40 used to get me through the day with a shot of that jack. Got that monkey on my back, used to eat me up just for a little bit of that snack. It's a fact. Every time I hit it, tripped on my back, hit the gang. Thought it was keeping me up, and that's that. It was my medicine, kept me thin. Needed to get thin, wet in my bed, getting it deep in. Something to spin, higher it thin, so thin, but having hypertension at 27. Don't even understand my rise. It was a disguise, looking so deep inside myself I despise. I knew that I had to deepen, but the people couldn't hear my cries. If I didn't make it out, I knew that I would die. So I had to keep on riding for the top. Kept on flowing and going out the day till I dropped. This is my real list, and now I'm testifying to you, telling you the story of how I made it through. Yes, a Buddhist Jew, eyes blue, blonde hair too. Put down that drink cause it had to kill me too. It had me stuck on my back, looking at the sky, wondering, counting on the clock for the day I would die. To reply out the way I'm living in my head, freestyling on the mic, heart is dead because I got the beat with the ALC. So kick back, listen to what I got for you to see. Check it out, story. This is the story of why I left drinking, why I stopped drinking. This is a true story of glory. What's going on, guys? Welcome to part 1. So, this is gonna be a bit of a hard one, you know. This is probably my greatest victory of my entire life, and, you know, that's coming a lot, saying, you know, having a business and doing a lot of other things. Being I was a manager at a car wash. I actually moved up to a sales manager at 3 locations. I've done music. I've met a lot of people. I've traveled and had a lot of different women in my life. You know, I can tell you a lot of different victories, but none of those victories have anything to compare to, you know, beating alcohol in my life. And even things I could accomplish, getting $1 million, getting a mansion, whatever, anything physically attainable cannot, you know, match beating alcoholism, because alcoholism can defeat you no matter what you have. You could have billions of dollars in the bank and you can lose it because you have an alcohol problem. So I think that in that aspect it's worth more than that. So to defeat that kind of problem in your life, I think you should definitely pat yourself more on the back than a lot of celebrities you see on TV or anything, because what they've achieved is physically attainable. What you achieved was mentally attainable. Defeating mental things in your own self that destroy you is definitely a lot more something to be proud of. I think people forget that. We always think about what we achieve physically, but we never think about what we achieve mentally. And that, I think, is the ultimate battle. So, going on with that, let's start off with some facts. 88,000 people die from alcohol-related deaths in the United States. Half of those can be attributed to liver disease. So, you know, that one's pretty dear to me. Let's go to 1 in 20 deaths across the whole world is alcohol-related. Not to mention, 12.7% of the United States population has what they say alcohol use disorder. So that's as many people as represent certain, you know, ethnic populations in the whole U.S. could equal out to the same number as alcoholics. So that's pretty crazy when you really think about that. That's 1 in 13 people. 12 to 13 people are alcoholic. If you have a family bigger than 13 people, you have, or even double that, you have 2 alcoholics in your family, or alcohol use, people who you drink too much. So, you know, that's pretty crazy. And then to go a little bit even crazier, that I don't know if a lot of people, some people know this, but not a lot. Alcohol is the only drug that can actually kill you from withdrawals. It it actually attacks your central nervous system because it's one of the drugs that attacks your GABA, as well as, like benzos do as well, benzodiazepines. Those can actually have it, but not a lot of people get hooked on those. Most people get hooked on those when they're getting off other things, but alcohol has it too, and those things attach to the GABA, which is a deeper one inside your central nervous system. So when you stop using it, your body's so used to that kind of thing, it can actually go into seizures. Whereas like heroin and thing, you can die from heroin, but usually it's due to dehydration. So it's not directly from the actual withdrawal effect. It's from the effect of the withdrawal. So like, yeah, it makes you thirsty, but if you were to stay hydrated or have an IV in you, you won't die on heroin. Whereas like, if you don't have, doesn't matter, you could have all the drinks, whatever, you could go into a seizure with alcohol. It doesn't matter. There's nothing that can really do it. There are certain other medicines that they're finding can kind of stop those things like CBD. So that's a positive side. They are finding things that can kind of change it and manipulate the effect, which is pretty cool. That's actually what benzos do. Again, that's how they kind of get people on. They also give people benzos when they are coming off alcohol as well. So, going on further, how did alcohol get in my family? Alcohol's been in my family for a pretty long time. My mom used to tell me when I was a kid that, Teddy, don't drink. We have a problem. She told me this as a kid too, and I didn't really listen. I had my first drink at 2.5. I'm not gonna throw anyone under the bus, but I didn't really like beer, and then I went to drinking, wine with the rabbi's son behind the door. It was pretty innocent. I mean, it was introduced a lot, but one thing about alcohol is it's not really shunned upon around other people. Even today, you can usually find families that drink with their children or whatever. It's very openly thing, and I'm not saying that's dangerous. I'm just telling you the facts of my story. So, basically moving on, I didn't really like alcohol, even into like my early teenage years. I didn't like it. Like 14, I had a really bad experience where I puked all over the place off some tequila, and just wasn't really something I actually really enjoyed. But I mean, I would do it on and off as a celebratory thing. It didn't really become, a huge thing until like later on. And, that's where we're going to kind of get onto in this is, you guys heard those stories from earlier. I've told you guys about, when I almost died, and I told you about the stories of when, and those stories I was drinking as well. Those were kind of the introduction era of my alcoholism. It was kind of where they kind of mixed, because I kind of stopped and dropped that stuff eventually and went off into it. And then, because I would do those things more. Before that, I was a drug dealer. I did a lot of crazy stuff. And when I had to get sober, I would drink. And that was like that's the only time I would drink usually, because I'd be on probation from something. So, it started to become normal. And I would say about 16 or 17 was like, that's when I started to drink, like every day. It was started like, and that was actually like when I had quit smoking weed for like a really long time. And, at that time I always needed some kind of medication. I didn't like pills. They had put me on pills a lot as a kid. I had things like lorazepam and Lexapro, a lot of different things. I don't want to go through all because it's so much. I didn't like them. There's so many. Each pill had a different withdrawal. Lorazepam was probably my least likely because it was too much like a drug. You would take it, pass out, wake up, and feel like, whoa, what happened? So, that was really my introduction. My first, after my first really, when I would say I kind of changed paths was after my 21st birthday. That was kind of when, when I got that beat down and all that stuff. I decided I would stop going to house parties, stop doing all these other things, but I would just start drinking. And that would be my way to escape from getting beat up at parties or getting into any trouble, doing something stupid, and kind of get away from my bad side. I figured I would go be a normal adult and go to bars and drink and party and do it that way instead, and bring girls home and get an apartment, things like that. That was my huge thing back then. So that's where we'll end this first part. Next part, we're going to kind of go into the actual meat and potatoes potatoes of my alcoholism, because this is just kind of the intro and early part with some facts. So hope you enjoy this part, and see you guys in a little bit.